This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella.
Antelope were introduced to Hawaii in 1959.
Yep, they introduced them from Montana.
And are they still there?
You know what? I was reading a book that someone gave me that was published in 1973 by the Wyoming Game and Fish. And I need to actually maybe get a hold of the Game and Fish in Hawaii and ask them. I think that's kind of a nice little trivial thing to know.
Yeah, well, let's look it up one right now. I'm going to hit pause. It appears that they are no longer there. They were introduced to Lanai. Is that how you say that? Lanai. In 59, but they're believed to be extinct now.
Yeah.
I like how they equivocate, like they're not sure,
Part of it, I was reading what they were eating, and part of it was like pineapple. So I don't really understand that. I've never been to Hawaii, so I'm ignorant to that. But I was just kind of looking, I think it was in 1970, there were still 130, but that wouldn't take long for them to come to a screeching halt.
Lots of grass in Hawaii. I wonder why weren't eating the grass. They probably were.
Yeah.
They were supplementing with pineapple.
Well, and I think that would be really difficult to transplant an animal that's been foraging and eating what it has been in Montana to get uprooted and thrown to the Hawaiian Islands and have to change your whole eating habits.
Yeah. Lots of other creatures have learned to eke out a living there.
Yeah. Well, and over thriving, it appears at this point.
Yeah. So you care a great deal about antelope so much that you started a group.
I did.
Antelope conservation group in South Dakota.
I did. After a lot of talk over the last 3 years, my wife and family just kept on saying, you're pretty passionate about this. You should push forward and do it. And you never want to fail at something. And I think that's the main reason why people don't jump off the diving board, is the fear of the unknown and what'll happen. And finally just kind of had a couple of the right people push me to, again, to include my wife and also another guy that I'm on another organization's board with. And he was like, "Hey man, let's just do this." He goes, "I'll help you out. Let's just get this thing started." So that was towards the end of last year. And we went ahead and filled out all our paperwork to become a nonprofit. And we made it come together. Currently, we have a 9-person board. And we've been pretty good about our monthly meetings by following our bylaws and things like that. But it's a challenge, anytime you get something new like this up off the ground, and then getting support from people and trying to educate them on what you're out there trying to do.
What's the name of the organization?
So we are the South Dakota Antelope Foundation, and I've had a few people, we get the smart people, and I get it, and they're like, "Well, why aren't you the Pronghorn Foundation?" That's what they actually are, and I'm like, well, as soon as the state of South Dakota changes what it says on the tag, then we'll start to talk about it, because people predominantly across pronghorn landscape will always call them antelope. So
yeah, that kind of stuff gets on my nerves, because it's like, as long as everybody knows what you're talking about, it doesn't matter.
Yep. Well,
it's people like to play gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody wants to be smarter than the other guy. And it was just our way of making it common so people could understand what we were actually talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you could know the Latin name of antelope and still not know a goddamn thing about them.
It's just it. You can rehearse, and you can study these things and know all the technical terminology. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I can tell you off the top of my head, but when you start asking people technical questions about wildlife and those things typically, they can't tell you, and I don't think anybody should have to know 100%, but you should know a little bit about the wildlife that, shares the earth with us.
Do you know the scientific name for antelope?
Do you?
Mm-hmm. Because I just looked it up.
Let's hear you pronounce it, Matt.
Antilocarpa americana. I feel like I did okay, but not because I'm good at Latin, but because it was just so happened to be a particularly easy one.
Well, the cool thing though is that surprisingly, there are a ton of people that have made their life about pronghorn antelope. Like they literally have the amount of universities that have dedicated their life to these things. It's pretty impressive. And they're the most transparent people I think I've ever come across. Like they want you to know a lot about antelope. And I think that's super cool.
A handful of years ago, the lab I work at, we have a reproductive physiologist that works here, and he works on cattle. But as a side project, he and another guy got permission to go out and shoot a bunch of them, and to study their their reproductive anatomy, and then they gave me all the antelope.
Oh wow!
And I had a big party at my house, and we pit roasted them, which was not good. It was too dry. Stupidly, we brined them, but we didn't we didn't bar them or lard them or anything. So it was super dry. I mean, like the flavor was good. It was so dry that if you were eating a bite and you inhaled, you'd get meat dust in your throat and start coughing.
Antelope is 100% one of those best served rare to rare. And it's actually, I always jokingly say like it tastes horrible. I wouldn't feed it to my dogs. Don't ever shoot one or eat one, only because I'm trying to be selfish about it.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys where I honestly do think antelope meat is probably it's right up there with canvasback. It's pretty good.
Oh, canvasback is good?
Oh yeah, canvasback is good. That's prime rib right there. If you know how to cook it.
I've never eaten a canvasback.
It's been a long time since I shot one.
Bad. I just didn't know that they were like creamy.
Yeah. Normally, diving ducks are just not. They wouldn't normally be my forte. A ringneck or a bluebill, like anything when you kind of get into there, just never been my favorite. But canvasback is pretty good.
So, it seems like antelope organizations are something that is in the air right now. Didn't North Dakota also just start one?
I think it's where it kind of has taken off. Like, so there's currently
initial one.
Not the initial one. So the Arizona Antelope Foundation has been around forever, and I mean they've been our mentor and our guide throughout this whole process. They invite us in on all of their monthly conference calls. They do a Zoom, any training. Have literally offered to haul their enclosed trailer and their board members and some of their actual membership to come up here and help us with fencing projects. Along with they have a food trailer. I mean, these guys, they really get some stuff done, and they're into that. They're into that, putting millions of dollars back into pronghorn rebuilding projects, as far as fencing and guzzlers and anything that they can do. So Arizona's been. I couldn't have. Glenn Dickens is my main contact there, and Glenn is just an amazing guy. If you want to know anything about pronghorn antelope, he's kind of my go-to. He used to work for Arizona Game and Fish. And what I really liked about their organization was that their Game and Fish in Arizona recognize them for the accomplishments that they complete and the things that they do, versus a lot of organizations are recognizing people within the Game and Fish department, and that that when Game and Fish is recognizing you, you're doing good things.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that was important. There's a newly found North American Pronghorn Foundation. I do know one of their board members, super great guy, Randy Routier. Just an awesome guy. But they've kind of like started that's a more of a national chapter. It would be I'm not going to sit here and specifically say what their model is or what they're going to do. I would kind of view it as probably kind of along the Mule Deer Foundation idea or concept, or they'll eventually want to have state chapters and those type of things. I don't know. I think that their board chair is located in North Dakota, but they do have one board member, like I said, here in South Dakota.
Okay. That's the national organization.
Yes. And that
What's
is
it called again?
The North American Pronghorn Foundation.
Okay. And how long has that been in existence?
I would say it's probably pretty close to about the same time frame as us. I think maybe they might have come on just like maybe 1 or 2 months after we did. It's a very weird, ironic thing that all of a sudden you have this big push towards the preservation of pronghorn antelope, and then, we're doing it, they're doing it. I don't think anybody was copying anybody. I just think I think people are trying to recognize pronghorn antelope are in a bad way. And so we're trying to get those, as many people involved in it as possible. Our organizations we're different, and we just handle South Dakota. We don't not focused on anywhere else. We would definitely partner with Montana, Wyoming along those fringes on the borders, even Nebraska, just to help them figure out some things. Because as like big game doesn't know state lines, doesn't even know county lines. So
yeah. What are the long-term population trends for pronghorn in South Dakota?
Well, so I was just looking at this old book here from 1973. This one, it was printed, but the data, if I go back and look at it, and because I hadn't seen this before, matter of fact, I've never been able to find statistics to go back that far, but in 1970, there were 25,000 pronghorn in South Dakota, which is far less than what we have right now. I mean, probably by maybe 8,000 or 9,000 difference. In 2008, we had 80 to 90,000 pronghorn in our state. And a few factors played into the decline over time. One, there was some overharvest, in my opinion, that was going on. Everybody was getting, if you got a tag, you could shoot a buck, a doe, and a kid. What other big game animal? Can you imagine now getting a tag for a fawn? That's
So
what
fawn specific tag.
Yeah, you could get a kid was listed on there. Yeah,
I've never. Okay, so you could not shoot a doe with your fawn tag. It had to be a fawn.
Well, you could shoot. Well, I don't even remember because it wasn't an option for me. I was a bow hunter. I didn't do any rifle hunting. So, I mean, you were like able to shoot anything. You just couldn't shoot another buck. And that was going on, followed by some really bad winters.
So you were able to get 2 antlerless and an antlered.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so that's followed by some horrible winters. And we have a ton of woven wire in our country. And when we get a bad winter, the mortality on pronghorn is pretty high. I don't know what the lowest number we've ever got to. When I look at that 25,000 number, that's pretty low. Right now we're sitting at between 30 and 34,000. They will not do an aerial count this spring, or they did not do one. So we won't actually have numbers to see. We can only go off of harvest projections, and I have not seen those either yet. So the objective for the Game and Fish, which
just let me make sure I get this part in my head. In the 80s, you said they were down around 20-some thousand? 70s, I'm sorry. And then they went way up.
Yep.
To 4 times that much.
Yep.
And that was in the
2008 was probably like the peak.
The peak. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they've been declining steadily since then.
Yep. And really, you have other factors that you got to play in that too, Matt, is like we stopped poisoning coyotes at some point, like in the 90s. We stopped using poison to kill them because it was a very effective way of killing coyotes. It was also an effective way of killing raptors. It was an effective way of killing other bobcats and Nancy's dog. That kind of stuff was happening, and then it was just put to an end. And then
Effective,
fur
but
market-
not selective.
Yep. And the fur market was pretty good, for a long time. And now the fur market's garbage, so guys aren't really hunting them or putting the time into it. The state has their own state trapping system, which is very effective, but they can only take so many coyotes with the amount of time that they have. And shooting coyotes. It's a very small group of people that actually just go out, and that's what they're doing because they're trying to help do the predator control side of it. I wish the market would come back. It would definitely help. But I do think though too, like we kind of get lost a little bit. There's so many other things going on that guys have lost perspective on. Hey, here's like a priority thing that maybe we should be helping at to put wildlife back. It's not just pronghorn, it's mule deer, it's whitetails, it's turkeys. I mean, coyotes. I could call Game and Fish every single day and ask them, what's the current coyote population? And there's no way they could ever answer that for me. They can't even give you a ballpark, and I can't fault them for that because they're just all over.
It's a hard thing to know.
Yeah, I live in Rapid City, South Dakota, and where I live at, I know there's at least 8 or 9 every year. This female has a litter, and it's a healthy litter. I watch them, and they take off and disperse, and she keeps having litters all the time. So that's a huge part of mortality. I have been given information through university that there's actually 2 different studies that I've seen that coyotes can contribute up to 70% of the fawn mortality. So that's way higher than what it's ever been in the past. So that's a big issue right there. If I won't say the guy's name, but there's a guy that I follow, and he gives me a ton of information on coyotes. Like this guy has put the end to a lot of coyotes, but he's also very.
Why are you getting all cryptic on me? There's a lot of secrecy on with my deaths for some reason. It's interesting to me.
He told me
he's so secretive that you can't tell me why you can't tell me.
Well, this guy that has a YouTube channel called O'Neill Ops, and he's just a good guy. Like the guy knows. I don't think I know anybody who knows more about coyotes than what he does.
Real Ops.
O'Neill Ops.
O'Neill Ops, and
they do a lot of nighttime stuff, and they're really good at it. And he's
they're nighttime coyote hunters.
Yep.
Okay.
And his big thing is the safety factor. He's like, hey, the suggestion I would give you, Rob, is like, don't be reaching out to your membership and people and be like, hey, go out and start killing coyotes at night and go out and just start shooting coyotes, because coyotes are the way they are because they're not stupid. They're super smart, and we do a really good job of educating them. And he's like, you got to educate people on the proper way to eliminate coyotes or to at least reduce the population. And I don't even know if we'll ever be able to do that. But he's like, you'll be doing more damage by just encouraging people to just go out and start trying to blast coyotes, because there's a process to it. So there's that type of stuff where we could get more people educated. Our Game and Fish, we actually have an educational division at our West Campus here in Rapid City, South Dakota. And one of the guys that's an instructor there, like he does a class on coyote hunting and the do's and don'ts of hunting them at night, because that's a whole nother issue all in itself as far as safety goes. But, they're trying their best to do it too. They're trying their best to get people educated and not educating the coyotes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what your group does is fencing work.
Yes.
Is that all you do, or what do you do other things?
We'll get involved in more of the educational stuff because we do have some agreements with one of the educators that he'd like us to come in, because they'll do a lot of these 101 classes with youth and the late onset guys and gals, to come in and try to get them educated on what we do and the importance their role has in all of this. The fencing is probably our biggest piece. I mean, it literally is. The more woven wire we can get ripped out, the better off. I mean, it's even sharp tails and sage grouse that benefit from us pulling all that woven wire out. The number of times in my hunting career, I'm 55, the amount of times I've seen sharp tails and sage grouse all tangled up in that crap, or even turkeys, just getting it all out of there is important. So it does have a big impact. Unfortunately, I couldn't even tell you how many miles of that crap is floating around in western South Dakota.
Your organization is so new. Have you taken on any fencing projects?
Yep, we just got done this last weekend. We took out 2.5 miles of woven wire and the posts, and that will be replaced. There's a state program that works with landowners to replace the woven wire, and also replacing 5-strand. 5-strand is just as detrimental as woven wire. So if they take it out, the state will help cover some of the cost of replacing that fencing. The rule to it, though, is you can put back 3-strand barbed wire. Those top 3 strands are barbed, but the bottom 4th strand has to be smooth wire, and it has to be 18 inches off the ground. And that is very effective. I've seen enough game camera footage where those are being put up in areas where they've done that. That's just that makes a huge impact, because people will say, well, I see pronghorn jump over fences all the time. And I'm like, nah, you don't see them do it all the time. And when you see it, it's when they're under extreme duress. Like they don't want
to. One jump a fence under casual circumstances last year. But I agree that it can be quite violent. Like,
oh, yeah.
Not the jumping over, the going through when they're under duress can be quite violent.
Yeah.
And it's like, it does not seem safe at all.
Well, they have hollow hair, and that's when you see them go through a fence. There's just pile of
hair. Yeah.
However, I shot a buck pronghorn 3 years ago, I think, and he had this long infected gouge all the way down his back. And I shouldn't speculate, but I'm almost going to guarantee you with 100% certainty that he did it going under a fence.
That seems like a reasonable guess to me.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been a critter trying to get a hold of him, there would have been other signs of injury, but this was like a surgical, nice, deep gouge in that. So, yeah, that has a lot of factor to it. So, yeah, that fencing, that project that we just did, it's kind of some of the problem that we run into is on day one, we thought at first we were going to have like 30 volunteers, and then it turned into one guy in his 30s and myself, one of the other board member, who we are both 55. The guy in his 30s, he stayed and helped us until like around 10 or 11 o'clock. And then poor Todd, one of the other board members, him and I, we finished pulling out 1.25 miles that day. So it sucks.
A widespread problem in the hunting community is apathy.
Yep. Look at you using Randy Newberg words, or Randy Newberg using your words. I don't know who's using them more, but it's that apathy thing.
Yeah, Randy and I don't get along very well, but we agree on that.
It is like, but I mean, in all honesty, Matt, like that's that thing of, I don't come on here to like bring us all together and we all hold hands and have a kumbaya. However, I do say, like, I think more people are starting to get frustrated because of the apathy that's out there. Like,
that's good to hear.
I don't honestly understand how this I mean, I do, and I don't really know why it's so widespread and why it's so horrible. The biggest factor I can tell you why people don't want to sign up for projects, I think they can see the vital importance of it. But when you go out to go do these things, there's nothing sexy or cool or nothing that you can possibly post on social media and make it look like, look at this flex. And in all reality, in hunting, in what we do as outdoorsmen and women, like, doing conservation work is the real flex. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's not sexy. It's not neat. It doesn't get a whole lot of page likes. So it's really kind of
legislative work, I'd say, too, like advocacy. is another one.
Yep.
Projects and advocacy.
Yep. Well, you know, if hunters were gardeners, like we'd starve to death. We're really good at going in the garden and taking the vegetables out of the garden, but we're really shitty about putting seeds back in the garden.
Yeah, like the story of the little red hen. You know that story? You do?
No, you tell me.
Oh, it's just a book I read when I was little, or story where little red hen is gonna make bread, and she's like, hey, and she's going by the cow pen, and she's like, hey, Mr. Cow, or Mrs. Cow, I guess. I'm gonna go get some wheat to make some bread. You want to come with? And the cow's like, no, I'm gonna eat grass. And then goes and gets the wheat. They come, the hen's coming back, and then there's the sheep. And the hen's like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go mill this wheat, and then make some bread. You want to help me mill the wheat? And they're like, no. And then this goes on. Then the pigs, hey, I'm gonna go bake some bread, and the pigs are like, we're gonna wallow in the mud. But then after the bread's all baked, then everybody's on board. Then
Yeah.
yeah. I think what makes me an advocate and be involved is, so there's two things, I guess, that you'd be involved with. There's three maybe. So there's habitat work and conservation. So I do that for a living. Then, so I shouldn't get props for that because I'm getting paid for it in my mind,
Yeah.
But then trying to influence the legislature, lawmakers, to make the right decisions for wildlife and otters.
Right.
And then just trying to direct the hunting community in a positive direction, which is that's what my role has become. Oh, but then a fourth one might be working on access, so those last two are the ways I'm involved. I work on access, and I work on trying to battle what I see as negative trends in the zeitgeist, of hunting.
Yeah. Well, I think that, like a lot of times I'll hear people talk really negatively about our game and fish. Do they have their flaws? Yeah, and it kind of goes in ebbs and flows, right? Depends on who's at the helm, who's running as governor, or who's running the ship, like whatever. But I also kind of look at, like, if I worked for Game and Fish and I was kind of like sitting back in a chair watching hunters, I maybe wouldn't put a lot of stock in us either. I'd maybe kind of like, we can go back to the whole, they're the trustee, we're the beneficiary, and they take care of our wildlife, our fishing, and our parks, and everything else, the resource. But I could kind of see them like giving up on us a little bit because of how we behave, how we talk. If you look at public comments that people put on their surveys when they send them in, because those are mostly all made public, you read them and you're just like, what planet is this person living on? And I mean, and I'm a fellow hunter, and I just go, our state will ask you, like, what was your satisfaction rate of your hunt? Like between 1 to 10. And someone will like make a low mark because, and I'm just being facetious, but they're like, well, I got a flat tire, so my hunt sucked. Well, that has nothing to do with anything and fish can oversee. So when you continually hear negativity and you're constantly getting bombarded by, I'm on another nonprofit that does lobbying, and I know that Game and Fish gets sick and tired of seeing us show up, and they're like, what the hell these guys want now? But,
sometimes it's hard to distinguish between what is being directed by fish and game management agencies and what's being directed by the governor's office, the administration. You know,
Yep.
like I see a lot of people in Montana voice frustration at Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks that should be levied against the administration.
Correct.
What you
I
say
mean,
about
that's
that?
the one thing that gets thrown around a lot in our state is concerns over a heavy emphasis on tourism, like the Department of Tourism being tied to game and fish. That's not healthy. There's no biology science involved in that, and it could make it really difficult for biologists and the terrestrial guys, for those guys to be doing their job correctly. Um, I'm not saying anyone's ever complained to me or done any of that, but I can see the complexity of that kind of becoming an issue because South Dakota, we're a state. We rely a lot on tourism. We have all these pheasants on the eastern side of the state. They're basically ditch zebra mussels, but there they are, and everybody comes. They fly here from all over the country, all over the world to come here and hunt them. The state just put out a press release in 2024. 1.3 million pheasants were harvested in our state. Like, that's a lot, and that's a lot of dollars. Like, that's a lot of revenue for the state of South Dakota. To the point of where I firmly believe that the current administration, in my heart and in my mind, I firmly believe that they're able to separate, hey, that's fine. You can do that over here with pheasants, but you can't take that model and now put it into big game. You can't do that. That's not how this works, because some of the stuff, we can argue that, yeah, pronghorn and mule deer and sage grouse and sharptails, they're all renewable resources, but in my mind, they're not. Like antelope, once antelope are gone, they're gone. You're not going to go to some other continent and get more of them. Mule deer, across the country are in dire need of repopulation. Like, they're really struggling. So that's where you get nervous. You're like, yeah, well, is the guy sitting at the office of the Department of Tourism, does he really know what's going on when he's like pushing these types of things? Um, I have no issue with non-residents. I have no issue. They are a tool when it comes to big game of helping manage population numbers when there's not enough resident numbers to control those populations. And so we are tools that were used by game and fish to help them manage wildlife. And it's like we all work together on it. We're just having to figure out ways of like, how do we give back more than just, because buying your tag is not conservation. Like buying it. Yeah, that's everybody like I don't know where that all came from, but everybody's like, I bought my tag. And you're like, well, that's not conservation, man. Like, there's only so many department staff at Game and Fish. They can't go out and remove all this fence. They can't do all these things. And they have to build trust in organizations like ours to say, we're going to go out and do the right thing. We have nothing to gain here other than putting more pronghorn back on the landscape. That's our only goal. We're not asking for more tags. We're not asking for anything. And I really need to back up so that it's very clear. The South Dakota Antelope Foundation, we are not a hunting organization.
Okay. Interesting.
We have one board member that he's a rancher. He doesn't hunt. He used to. He probably used to be one of them guys where if you asked to hunt antelope on his place, he'd say, you got a tag? And you'd say, yeah. And he'd go, well, you can't hunt here then. And you'd say, well, why? And he'd say, well, because it says you can only shoot one and I need you to shoot 100.
Right.
Now I don't know if I know any other ranchers who have put in as much wildlife friendly fencing as he has, because he loves watching them and he doesn't want to go to his grave knowing that he partook in the decline of pronghorn antelope in the state of South Dakota. He wants to make a difference.
Do you have any idea what changed his mind?
I think him watching the numbers slowly decline, he's a really great source of information, because he'll tell you, like in the 80s, if you saw one coyote every couple of weeks, that would be, and if you saw it, it died. Now he's like, you can't go a day and not see 3 or 4. So just a wealth of information as far as historical, and him and I are also the same age. So just kind of getting his perspective on it is good. So when I go back to saying, like, we're not a hunting organization, we really try to, I feel like there's 3 categories you might be able to add to it, but you have anti-hunters, you have non-hunters, and you have hunters. And interestingly enough, I was on a fencing project last year with South Dakota bow hunters, and there was a guy there that was a guest that was a non-hunter. And at the end of the day, we were serving lunch or sandwiches, and he just said, "So how many of these projects do you guys do a year?" And I'm like, "Well, this is the first one we've ever done." And I mean, that was through the Bow Hunters Association, which is a big deal because most hunting nonprofit organizations aren't out doing that type of stuff. And that was where we decided to turn the page of how we were going to do things. And I looked at him and I go, "This is the very first one." And he goes, "Holy crap." He goes, "As hunters, I thought you guys were out here doing this stuff all the time."
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, "No, we're not. We're absolutely not."
I think a lot of non-hunters think that we don't do anything. So this guy was had the opposite.
He was on the opposite, like he had a good faith in what we as hunters are like. He was kind of like figured we were you take, you give back, you get involved, you do boots on the ground stuff. And
He's been listening to too much Randy.
well, I will tell you, if I really wanted to get a fencing project done, non-hunters will show up to do a fencing project. Because non-hunters are like, look at how many people are non-hunters. The actual number of anti-hunters in this country, I don't know what the number is, but it's pretty damn small. They're just really good at pounding on their chest and making cardboard signs.
No, what is it? It's like 78% of Americans are on board with legal hunting.
Yep.
Something like, there's a survey that comes out every 2 years.
No, what is that?
It's funded by National Shooting Sports Foundation.
Okay.
So yeah, if you type in like American attitudes towards hunting, fishing, and shooting sports,
yeah,
you can get all of those, and for free.
Yep. Well, I just did.
If you start to drill down, then it gets way worse. Like trapping.
Yeah.
Ain't good. Predator hunting ain't good.
So let's just go back over to South Dakota bow hunters.
Yeah.
Started doing that because we kind of prioritize things, and it's okay if nobody agrees on this. But ourselves as an organization for South Dakota bow hunters had said, we're going to put 3 things. We're going to prioritize them 1, 2, and 3. 1 was wildlife. Then number 2 was access. And then number 3 was bow hunters. Because if you don't have wildlife, you just forget about access because it's pointless. Like, oh, that's great. Hey, man, we got like 8 million acres. Nothing's on there to hunt. So let's just go stand around. And then taking care of making sure that our hunting privileges or rights, depending on where you live, that those were going to be taken care of through legislative and lobbying and things like that. So back to the anti-hunters, it's really hard for them to roll up on South Dakota bow hunters out pulling a bunch of woven wire and go, "Well, good SOBs. What are you doing out here making life better for?" So why are we fighting so damn hard? Like, here's an opportunity for us to show our true colors, show what we're like, what we should be doing, and just finally just stomping them out and just saying just stop pounding on your chest because we're always going to do more. Find me an anti-hunter that has showed up to work on a conservation project.
Yeah. So do you have any pictures from your recent fence pull?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
If you want to, please, you could send them to me and I'll put them on our Instagram. I'd love to be more positive on there,
Yep. Matt, so for me, I look at hunters, and I know I keep talking a lot about hunters, but I feel like I'm really kind of targeting them. I mean, at least as far as the Antelope Foundation, because I just want guys to just finally start to go hey, I need to dedicate 1 or 2 days a year. That's not asking much. If you consider how much we do going to TAC, which we have to pay for, or we go shed hunting, or we're out putting up trail cameras, like just 1 or 2 days. And it doesn't have to be our organization. Like, shit, man, go out here with the Mule Deer Foundation and go up in the Black.
Anybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anybody. I like Trout Unlimited. I like just 1 or 2 days. My wife has always, like, she gets it now. My wife's also the secretary of the organization.
Is
But
she a
like,
hunter?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She used to always brag, like, we'd be around a bunch of people and she'd say, like, well, when I was in high school, I went one time and served at the soup kitchen and handed out food to less fortunate people. And I go, you went to that one time? She's like, well, yeah. And I go, well, hoopty ding dong.
Yeah.
Like, you, and now, like, because she helped with a couple of projects last year, she totally gets it. She's like, that's kind of earning your tag or earning your hunt, you know? Um, when you're putting back into it in that and you're just not constantly taking, I'm not saying you have to do conservation projects to earn being able to go out and hunt and do those things, but it sure feels a hell of a lot better.
Yeah.
And I hate to say like you should feel better about yourself, but just picture yourself, man. You're an antelope or a mule deer out here, and you and I are on a pickup driving by. They don't even know that the tires are made out of rubber. They don't know how the engine works. They don't know the brand of shirt you have on. They don't know the kind of gun. All they just know is you're a pain in their butt, and you just chase them around and like you're trying to kill them, so they just avoid us. Like, and then you think about how much we think about them, but we don't do much for them. We do very little in that. So they're living in their own world and then we're living in ours. And I think if we just keep taking, and there could be an opportunity that with some species, um, someday they might not be around, or even in my opinion, worse yet is your grandkids are gonna have to take their kids in a car to a zoo to go and look at this stuff because it won't be out here anymore.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be that generation. I don't care whether it's millennials, Gen X, boomers, whatever. Man, we really screwed this up. And there are people out there doing amazing work. There are conservation groups that are making a massively huge difference. But we just don't need a few people. Like, we need everybody to be out doing it.
Yeah. 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 You know, I don't know how you accomplish that. It's advocating for wildlife, doing wildlife work, doing conservation work. It's it seems like I don't know if it's an easier sell than doing access work. I think, like with access work, you're not going to get hunting access work. You're not going to get non-hunters involved. But you're right. It's like, it is the most important. Without that, the rest doesn't much matter. But how you go about motivating people, like what motivated me to start doing something, because like my public, my philanthropic record was pretty dismal up until 6-7 years ago. I was more inclined to do stuff for needy folks than give back to, like, in the conservation sphere, hunting sphere,
Right.
than like at work. But then, like I said, I don't really think of that as counting because I'm getting paid for it. But what made me get involved was watching hunting get worse. Like, over my whole life, there's never been a period where it got better.
Right.
Never watched crowding get less anywhere. I've only given up places, hunting spots, because of the crowding. I've never watched tags get easier to draw. Well,
Right.
watch them get harder to draw. And at some point, I was like, damn it, you got to do something about this. But it's definitely the case that doing conservation work combats your hunting getting worse over your lifetime, in the same way that access work does.
Right. Yeah.
you need to find people that have watched hunting get shittier and go, well, you want it to get better? Well, let's work on building wildlife populations, and then hunting will get better.
But at what point, though, Matt, did you start to watch hunting get worse? Like, how old are you now?
I'm 54.
Okay, so you and I are in the same wheelhouse here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you, and like, be honest, when did you first start to see hunting getting shittier?
It's so hard because, you're accumulating knowledge of spots through time, which makes your hunting better. At the same time that access is declining and crowding's getting worse, so it's hard to disentangle. But I would say I've never seen it get better. I've never seen places like, oh, this place used to suck, now it's great.
Yeah, right.
I've never seen that anywhere. Now I've lived most of my hunting life has been. I moved to Montana when I was 27, so I guess most of my the most of my hunting life has been here, and I'd say that from the early days, I've watched places come out of block management or state-run access program and be leased up more and more. I've abandoned more and more locations due to overcrowding. I think, I drew moose, sheep, and goat tags the first 5 years I lived in Montana. You ain't gonna do that anymore,
Right.
So I guess ever since I moved here, I've seen nothing but it get worse.
Well, and here's this other thing though, too, is are you familiar with shifting baseline syndrome?
Yeah, I'm not. I've never heard that phrase, but I can almost figure out what it is just based on what the name of it.
Well, let me pretend to be the smart guy for a second. So you and me, we go out antelope hunting for a whole day, right? Or maybe 2 days. And then we go to some local place and there's a couple 30-year-old dudes in there. And we say to them, like, hey, did you guys do any good? And they're like, no, we didn't get one. And we say the same thing. And then they go to us like, well, how many did you see? And you and I go, we might have seen like, or actually we say, well, we didn't see very many. And they go, well, we saw a lot. And we're like, well, how many did you see? And they're like, I bet we saw 40. And you and I are like, that's not a lot, brother. That's nothing. Like so that becomes the norm for them. You and I are in a different world and they're in a different world. They're normalizing what we know is not good because we've seen better.
Yeah.
And now you have this disconnect where we're not all on the same page. So not only are we fighting with social media and like, hey, likes and beautiful comments and cool pictures, because I get like I get that people need that to feel what's that word I keep on using? Just getting validation, right? But trying like now we got this whole other battle to fight where we don't want to sound like our granddaddies that said, yeah, we used to shoot ducks in the moonlight flying over the back porch. There were billions of ducks. Well, I'm not going to doubt that anymore. They probably did, but it's a hard sell. It's hard like pushing the school bus up and down the hill. Getting them to understand and go, that's not normal. But maybe this is one of those things. And I agree with you, Matt. And I almost refuse to say like it can't get better. Like I think at least the wildlife could get better. The access thing is always going to be it's going to be a struggle because of money, politicians,
Promotion.
just people like, and a lot of it is the promotion. If in a magical world there were laws that went along with all of this stuff, I would always say like, hey, if you want to have your blue dot and you're going to be a social media influencer, at least 40% of your content has to be about conservation. And that would literally, like most guys would fall off the edge because, and quite honestly, the conservation is way easier content to build than it is to go out and hunt something and maybe not get something and have a bunch of empty tags, or shooting something that you probably shouldn't have shot anyway. I mean, I get it. If it's illegal, you can shoot it, whatever. But there's just all these inherent challenges. And getting the word out there about conservation, um, I just wish more people, whatever word we want to use for them, that have a big platform, we're just spending more time talking about ways to give back and actually showing them out doing conservation work, and not just for the gram. Like, you don't even have to. I'm just going to give you an example. So let's just say that blood brother you got, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to be here, 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 and I'm going to go on a tour, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to meet with all these different organizations, and we're going to be working on different projects, whether it's sagebrush reintroduction, putting up wood duck houses, man, I don't care. Come and join us." People would come out of the woodwork to come out there and spend time with the guy doing this conservation work. And to me, when you have platforms that have so many followers, how can you not want to go do that? Like, I mean, it could give you the Messiah complex. I totally get that. But what an opportunity to have those huge.
My blood brother's already got that, and all these other, celebrities all already have the Messiah complex.
Because guys like me,
whether they do the conservation work or not, they have that. I mean, they're like, my brother did do conservation work before he was famous.
Yeah.
So like, why would he do it now? What he's most interested in is making money.
And I get but I mean, do you kind of get what I'm saying? Like, it's almost disappointing that the people who can make the biggest difference aren't smart enough to know that they can make the biggest difference in this conservation thing.
Is it that they're not smart enough to know, or is it that you just don't care? I mean, like, if you're a hunting celebrity, you've got to pretend you care about conservation.
But this kind of goes back to, though, Matt, when you ask the average person, like, "Hey, what is a full 5-year-old cow elk? What is on average? What do you think it probably weighs?" And most guys cannot tell you. They can tell you how much is in their backpack. They can tell you how much a half a tube of toothpaste weighs. And I get all that, like, and I respect that. But how many know what the diet of mule deer and sharp-tailed grouse and Merriam turkeys, and because in all reality, it doesn't matter. But it should matter, because ancestrally we have actually known that information. Historically, in the past, we knew that type of stuff. That's why we were pretty successful. We didn't have to shoot something with a bow at 110 yards. We could literally go shoot it at 5 yards. Maybe just reach out and stab it with the arrow.
Yeah. I guess what the point I'm trying to make is, like, and I don't want to belabor it, and we move on, but I just don't see how, because some clown hunts with a cameraman behind them, we think that they're going to be like zealous conservationists. I think we'd probably be better. Maybe they would make effective conservationists if they decided to go down that road. But it seems like there'd be more intrinsic zeal for conservation amongst the people that don't got the cameraman behind them.
One of my biggest faults, Matt, is I live in a pipe dream world. I like, it's all unicorns and butterflies, man. Or
yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I look at the world. You look at the world through rose-colored glasses, and I look at it through shit-colored glasses.
Well, see, my wife will tell you I generally look at it through shit-colored glasses. But at the same token, I'm just like, I don't know. Sometimes, you just literally want to look at somebody and just go, "You have the power to change
the right thing." Yeah.
And I get it. Like, money and the monetization through hunting is really what's just totally, destroyed it. And I try my best to, to respect all people, but I also know, especially what I see in your platform, there's just a lot of clowns out there that do a lot of things that don't help us out with anti-hunters. They don't help us out with non-hunters who we really need. Like, we really need non-hunters, whether it's conservation or hunting. Why turn them into anti-hunters? I mean, it's pretty damn easy to do that. I've seen some stuff where I could be standing next to somebody and they don't hunt, and I show them something on my phone, and they're like, "Yeah, you did that, or someone did that to that animal, holding the deer upside down, bonging a beer out through the carcass of the deer." That is the fastest. And then we start slowly just keep on progressing and making that number bigger. They may never go make cardboard signs and get on a keyboard and act like a clown and do the anti-hunting thing, but they are definitely not supporting us.
Right.
When they go to the ballot, they are not going to vote in our favor.
Yeah. Yeah. So getting back to how do we get more people to do conservation work? Like I say, I can look at it most effectively through my own lens. What got me involved was watching hunting do nothing but get worse.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that could be leveraged in some way. It's going to be old guys like you and me that if you could more, like if you say, that's your pitch. Have you noticed the hunting's gotten worse in terms of like fewer places to go and fewer creatures and harder to get a tag? Here's a way of giving back in a way that might improve it. Just make conservation work selfish. Like you're doing it for yourself.
We have a gal that's on our antelope board, and she's pretty young, and her name is Molly, and Molly is just a firecracker. Like, she will call a spade, and she'll do it to your face, and she doesn't care, because I think she literally sees the vision of, it's like a 20-some-year-old, 26, I believe, because I think she just ran a marathon, but like 26-year-old, and probably have the same vision that we have of like, hey, it's getting worse if we don't get this under control and we don't start to like reevaluate things. This 100% won't get any better.
Well, that's got to give you some hope when you got a young person like that.
Yep.
I have a meeting in 6 days on the 10th with 5 people that are in their 20s that are interested in starting a Hunters for Access chapter in Missoula County in Montana. So
Okay.
Stuff like that gives you a little bit of, a glimmer.
Yep.
There are civically minded youngsters out there, It's just how do you find them?
So, and I'm only bringing him up again once because, I get along pretty good with him, but, Randy was at our South Dakota Bow Hunters banquet. He was our keynote speaker 2 years ago. And, so Randy was quoting Supreme Court case laws as far as, again, how this all works with the state being the trustee and we're the beneficiary, and then the wildlife's a resource. And when it was over with, the amount of young people in that room, though, Matt, like let's I'm just gonna say everybody's got their goods, the things that they do good and the things that they do bad. So I'm just, again, remember, I'm rose-colored glasses. But by the time Randy got done with that thing, there was so many young people that came up as the South Dakota Bow Hunters organization that wanted to volunteer for projects. They want to know how they could get involved in conservation, because there is that part of Randy that's very dedicated. Like, he understands legislative, he understands the BS going on with the government right now, wanting to sell off a bunch of public lands, of doing those things. So if we just take that good part of it, there was one of those things where I had hope, where I was like, because Randy's older than you and me, but yet here's the old guy getting young people really fired up about doing conservation work. And actually, one of them now is a board member because he was so passionate, helped out with so many projects last year, that he's now on the Bow Hunters board. And all he wants to do is project work. He doesn't want to go lobby in Pierre. He doesn't want to go to the Capitol and do any of that stuff. He wants to do all this other stuff. So there is, and I'm using just him as an example, but I'm like, why can't other guys just give that little thing of, hey, let's go out there and yeah, I'm going to still do my hunting, and I'm going to do my YouTube hunting, and people are going to see where I'm going, and I'm going to help people figure out where to go hunt and get tags, yada, yada, yada. But I'm going to dedicate, and I'm going to say that at least 40% of my platform is going to be over here on conservation.
Yeah.
Because I think if one person can do it.
Just to be clear, I applaud Randy for his conservation work and his access work. So, absolutely, I applaud him for that. And what he told me when he was on my podcast when I first got started was that you just can't get anybody to look at the access and conservation footage. To me, it's like to me, it's like then you have your answer. That hunting media isn't the way. So, like, I don't know. Are the animals that die on camera? Like, I fixate on this because I think that hunting dead and dying animals are on TV and smartphone screens are bad for access, bad for our reputation amongst non-hunters. They incentivize hunting for shitty reasons, which I only care about because it's a finite resource. If people wanted to hunt for shitty reasons, but the globe was 10 times bigger, I wouldn't care, So, is that how we should look at this? Is these animals that are shot on camera are sacrificial lambs that allow us to spread a conservation message? Do we need the dead and dying animals to, do the right thing for wildlife?
I don't know. I don't know
You
how
have to use the deaths of animals as a source of entertainment in order to motivate conservation work.
But I mean, do you remember? This isn't me justifying it. It's not. It isn't me saying, like, do you remember when we were young watching Phil Robertson shooting ducks on a VHS tape?
I watch a tiny, tiny bit. I don't know that person. I watched a tiny bit of hunting media. I probably would watch a lot more if it was available, to me.
I remember in my late 20s, early 30s, the Outdoor Channel came out. I think it was something else back then. I remember it came out, and there was guys like Jay Gregory, and if you liked hunting, you really kind of watched that. You and I grew up in a photo album era.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to see what Cousin Willie shot, you had to go to his house and see it hanging in the garage or on the wall, or he had an old crappy picture, which you hope he had his eyes open for, like when he smiled at the camera. It was so limited. And now we have a whole generation that don't know anything different than it has to go on that little Apple box, that little Apple phone, and we have to share it for the whole world to see. And
yeah, somehow we rebuilt wildlife populations without all that. When in the 30s, when wildlife was extremely beleaguered in this country, when wildlife populations were at all-time low, somehow we mustered the energy to bring them back.
Yeah.
Without making hunting content.
I emailed what's the guy's name at Mountain Tough? Dustin? Yeah. I emailed Dustin and I was like, hey, I want to really talk about the Antelope Foundation. And we got to figure out a way to make a workout program for all these guys out, pulling fence. This, pulling woven wire and steel fence posts is horrific work.
Especially July, August. Oh
my God. I mean, we had one rattlesnake this last weekend. Last year we ran into a couple. I mean, it's just ugly, brutal work, and it's really hard. And a project we potentially have now, we're going to have to carry all of our post jacks, everything back in there, 2 miles off the highway, out in the middle of this pasture, and pull 3 to 4 miles of fence. We'll have more equipment when we go out to do that. but like it's super crazy hard. So again, this hopefully I'm not using it as a ploy to like Dustin to reach out and say like, hey, but it's like, hey, here's a chance to kind of show like doing all this conservation work. It's not easy. It's not like we go out and build birdhouses. This is some hard ass work, and it's a real flex. Like guys who want to be badasses and want to be tough, come out to a fencing project. I mean, that's where the rubber hits the pavement is as out on that type of stuff. Because don't get me wrong, backpacking and hiking in a long ways, that's a ton of work too. I 100% get it. Like that's backbreaking work.
It's not as hard. Just walking around is not as hard as doing fencing work.
It's literally painful. I went through 2 pairs of pants because they get all ripped up and all the barbed wire because the top above that woven wire, there's always 1 or 2 strands of barbed wire, and it's just crappy work. But
so you described 2 fencing projects, specific ones. I know you've done many more over your life, but the 2 you described it sounded like you were taking out fence without putting in new fence.
Yeah, we do not do any reinstall. So the state
Was somebody else going to do the reinstall?
The landowner will. The landowner will.
It's not like these fences are going away forever.
No. In some cases, we did remove one last year on the middle of a walk-in area with South Dakota bow hunters, and that one was, I want to say, 1.5 miles or 2 miles. We didn't even measure it out because it was the worst terrain ever. Down in a creek bottom, up the hills, over, all the rolling prairie is. It was doing that type of stuff, and that was a total removal. Like the landowner was like, I don't want it there anymore. I want it out. So we do stuff like that. The state has a program where they'll reimburse the landowner X number of cents per foot to put in this wildlife friendly fencing. Well, if we remove the fencing, it actually pencils out for the landowner. So the best time to remove fencing, the sucky part is calving just got done with, and now you're sorting cattle and putting them into pastures. So it's not a real great time to have your fence down for 2 weeks waiting for your fencer to come back. We're constantly battling that all the time. And we'll only do these fencing projects up until August. I'm doing them last year. We were out there in August. It was 100 degrees by 10 o'clock in the morning, and it had rained the night before, and the humidity. And I just said, we're not doing these in August anymore. It's just too hard on the workers, the volunteers to come out and do this stuff. I mean, you can get 2-3 hours into the morning, but that's it. And then you're done. And then the other thing we run into in South Dakota, we're so dry. We had an open winter. There's nothing going on. We've had a little bit of rain this spring, but you can start a fire with a fart come August and the first part of September. So we just tend to stay out of landowners.
Yeah.
Our window is super small, but whatever efforts, we can get done, it's awesome. I'm hoping at some point, one of our board members, I think he's going to be buying a new skid loader. Hopefully if we can raise enough money through our memberships and some other program or some other raffle type of stuff we're going to work on, we'll be able to buy a woven wire winder for the front of that skid loader. So that'll kind of be one of those big deal projects.
Yeah. One of my friends has one of those that we've used to remove woven wire.
Yeah.
Hey, how about you've been following the development of virtual fencing technology?
A little bit, yeah.
I was just talking to this guy he's your neighbor to the north, on the phone, and can't remember his name right now, but I just have a lot of side conversations, with people about various hunting related things. They'll reach out and I'll get on the phone with them. And he was telling me about how that's come a long way. Where I work, I've heard presentations about it for years, and I was extremely skeptical, but this guy is saying that it's starting to see pretty widespread use in some parts. Like, I think where it's at now is a lot of ranchers some number of ranchers that use it only have their boundary fence, and they've taken out all their internal fencing.
Yeah, I think that I think would really be dependent. I mean, wouldn't you think it'd be kind of dependent on how many head of cattle you have and how you have to keep them You got to keep them in one pasture for a while the grass grows in another pasture, and then you let them into that pasture. But I mean, you could basically it's just basically invisible fencing for dogs. You just set that parameter down, and that's where it lies at. I think there's a lot to that. I mean, a day where a lot of this fencing is gone is a good day. Like there is probably one situation right there, Matt, where for wildlife things get better. It may not improve people being able to hunt or access, but it would definitely make things better for wildlife.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, maybe in 5 years you'll be kind of teamed up with a company
Yeah.
that installs that. You're not installing anything really. You're
Yep.
putting collars on. I mean, just throwing it out there. It seems like there's some potential.
I think there's a lot of cool things. I think there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
And removing fence for antelope, and there's this new technology. I don't know. Those two things could intersect.
Well, even for the guys that hey, I just don't want to do this whole fencing thing. I don't want to do it smooth wire. I can't remember how much it is a foot. It's not as expensive as barbed wire. It would just be really nice just to be able to talk to a landowner hey, can we come out and pull down them bottom two strands and put one strand of smooth wire? I could see us doing reinstalls of things like that, but they have to want to see it, and they have to want to be willing to pay for that. That's going to be your true stewards of the land. That's going to be the guys that literally kind of get it, and they're like, yeah, we don't want to go down this road. I don't want to be remembered as I had 5 strands of barbed wire up and I just didn't care about wildlife at all.
Have you thought about doing fundraising to finance some of this?
We haven't quite gotten to that point yet. We knew our number one priority, Matt, was to get some projects under our belt. And to do that was a really big issue for us. So we're just trying to kind of get that part of it down. I think by the time this fall rolls around, we'll be way more engaged with kind of doing those things in the off season, so we can fundraise some mony.
You have a website? We
do. It's, if you just go underneath and look at South Dakota Antelope Foundation, that's just type that sucker in.
Yeah, it seems like you should have at least a donate tab on there. You guys are now one of my favorite conservation organizations.
Oh, I appreciate that. It means a lot. Honestly.
Well, I'm so behind so 100% behind what you're doing. You probably picked up on. I cannot support organizations that are trying to make my hunting worse. I just have a visceral reaction to organizations that are trying to make my hunting more crowded through R3 and stuff like that.
Well, my biggest thing, Matt, was that I've been asked a couple times, and again, I do not know the model of the North American Pronghorn Foundation, and I'm very thankful that organization is out there. But eventually somebody's going to say, well, why didn't you just join them and go ahead and just become a chapter? Well, this organization was founded on a lot of money came out of my pocket. A couple of the other board members, a bunch of money came out of their pocket. My wife built the website. We did everything that we could without having to borrow any money or do anything like that. And at the end of the day, we wanted to make sure that everybody understood we have zero paid anybody. The only thing I could ever see is
a national organization have paid employees.
I don't think so. I don't think that they do at this point in time.
Might be heading that way.
Yeah, it definitely could. All I just knew was I didn't want a single dollar we ever raised or that came in was ever going to pay a light bill some other place to keep the lights on at headquarters. I didn't want to do that. And that's not me picking on anybody. I want all of our funds to go directly to South Dakota Pronghorn and the ones that run back and forth across the borders. We just want that money to be used specifically for that. And the other beauty of it too, Matt, is it's so much easier to micromanage our antelope situation and what needs to be done and what could be done better and what we didn't do great. I mean, even as far as the whole state, it's way easier for us to understand that. We actually, all of our board members all live in pronghorn country. Like they're all, so the state of South Dakota, as you know, like we have East River and West River. Like you even get your tags that way. You get East River rifle tag, West River rifle tag. All of our board members, except for one, lives right on the river, but he has a farm himself, a ranch, and they have antelope on theirs. Everyone that's on our board sees antelope on a regular basis. Everyone sees, all of our members all see, the board members all see whether we're in a drought. How's the grass looking? How's habitat? If we're fawning right now, are the fawns, do they have plenty of cover to hide them from predators? Is there plenty of feed? How's the sagebrush looking? How was the winter? Like we're all really kind of dialed into exactly what's going on in this very small space because our whole state doesn't have pronghorn antelope in it. Like we're very small percentage of our state is actually never used to be that way. There used to actually be pronghorn in Tracy, Minnesota. That's forever, 1920 something. But that's how far their range was.
I think you're doing the right thing, man. If you're going to team up or become part of the national thing, there'd have to be a clear benefit to the resource.
Yeah.
And there's just such a high probability that there'd be mission creep. And then a bunch, like you usually so with the lights, next thing you know, 40% of the money you raise is going to national,
Yeah.
and then you don't know what's going on with it. I like the way you've got it structured.
We know this so a week and a half ago, I reached out and I told you before, Randy Routier, he's a board member for the National Pronghorn Foundation, but he lives up in Northwest South Dakota. And I reached out to Randy and I was like, hey man, if you have a membership base at all at this point, if you want to put something out there that we're in need of volunteers, like go ahead and put it out there. And we will take volunteers from whoever we can. It's just that any benefit that comes from this, just like if Randy called us and said, hey, we have a project going on, could you guys come help us? We'd say, absolutely, like we'll come help you. Whoever we can get to go, we'll get to go. No promises, but we'll definitely put it out there. We just always ask, and I would tell us too, if it's their project, we're not going to show up and start doing a big promo PowerPoint on come join our organization. We're just strictly there for the benefit of the pronghorn. We help them out and we walk away. The same would be asked. It doesn't matter what organization it is, comes to help us out. It's our project. We organized it. We're the ones dealing with the landowner. Just come and help us, and we'll be grateful and thankful, and we'll return the favor when you need help too.
Yeah. That's another one of the things that makes me deeply suspicious of large conservation organizations is I don't understand why they're competitive with one another. Is it about the organization or is it about the resource?
I think a lot of times, you already know the answer. It's about money. If having membership and getting people in your organization costs money. And right now, I think banquets nationally, I'm not an expert on it, but I think that there's less people attending. It could be the economy, but there are just so many banquets, so many different things going on that people are just well, next weekend we talked about a potential project and I talked to 6 people and there is so much stuff going on. People are involved in so much stuff. That's why we couldn't get any volunteers. So it makes it really tough when everybody is competing with each other. Wildlife gets lost in the shuffle. Their best interests are always there. I don't want to say for us, I wouldn't want to see someone pass up becoming a member with us. And then, if they have the financial means to belong to 7 nonprofit conservation organizations, and that's great. But a lot of people don't have it. They don't have it. So I think that's where that competition part comes in it.
Yeah.
Where people are just constantly, you're always getting inundated with, hey, come be a member of this and come be a member of that. people have to see you making a difference. Like they literally have to see you making a difference.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, there'd be less incentive to be competitive with other organizations in your case, like where you don't have salaries you're trying to pay.
right.
You
Yep.
know, like what you're like the underlying logic of what you're doing and what I'm doing is very similar. We don't have paid staff. We don't pay anybody for anything.
Yep.
The nice thing about it is it's just less stressful. You go like, okay, we're doing too much. I'm starting to get burned out. And then you can just dial it back. You don't have to worry about raising money for somebody,
Yep.
for somebody's salary. You just like, okay, I'm getting stressed. Dial it back. Now I got energy. We'll do a little bit more. I think that's a really effective way to do it. And any money you do raise goes right to the pronghorn,
Well, that's just it is eventually here as some of our finances build up and they're sitting over here, you kind of say to yourself like, hey, let's find out how much a radio collar is for an antelope. And you call Game and Fish and they tell you, okay, it's like $1,700 or $2,000. Okay. Well, then you just say like, hey, Joe at Game and Fish, we have earmarked over here like $6,000. If you need any radio collars, reach out to us and we'll help you out with that because, some of these states like the budgets are a little bit challenged, but they will definitely they'll take the help. They'll take some proceeds to help offset some of these expenses, or maybe they have enough, but you guys have enough for 3 more collars. Well, we'll just collar 3 more pronghorn. Well, that's a benefit, right? So setting that money aside and not having to worry about that money going to pay something that there's no return on investment on.
Yeah.
It's the amount of people that have been out there that have come and gone. I know some of the most amazing people that work for Mule Deer Foundation, Rocky Mountain Elk, National Wild Turkey Federation. Like I know some amazing people that are there and they've been there a long time. But when you pay somebody $100,000 and they're only there for 3 years and they quit and go somewhere else, that's not a great return on investment.
Right.
That makes it really difficult. And I understand the situation that everybody's in because they're trying to get good help. They're trying to get people to stay long term. And that's not my problem. I'm not going to worry about how they're going to
That's an interesting point because I get frustrated with how much some of these people at the nonprofits get paid, like in excess of $400,000 a year. Seems excessive. I mean, if you have to pay somebody that much to motivate them toward the mission, I don't know. I struggle with it, but it is true. Like you say, they're just getting acclimated to the job and then they quit. That's not good.
I think if they were on every single project and they were leading the way and they were pulling the most posts or digging the deepest trenches or whatever, planting the most sagebrush, well, that makes a big difference. But when you're just delegating and figurehead, that doesn't make any sense at all. So that's with our organization. And I think it says a lot about the organization is one of our guys was a banker, younger guy, Jason, super good guy. We have one guy that's a retail manager, works for Shields. Another one, like the one I was talking about, she does some freelance stuff. One of the other guys, he's a tree trimmer. We got a cabinet maker. We got our rancher. Got my wife. I know. I'm going to probably be forgetting. Oh, we have another guy that works for a local energy company. So like none of them are getting paid, but they'll show up to help ramrod and help us line up and get volunteers to come and do these things and participate themselves. So they know it takes
not this last time, sons of bitches, but normally.
Yeah, this last time was it was a last minute and everybody had plans. And I will tell you, and actually one of our other board members, he's a lineman. So we have 2 guys involved in the energy business. Tyler will hate me for forgetting him, but like Tyler, dog tired, trying to get a house built out here. He works long hours on power line and then he shows up and busts his ass for 4 hours and he had to take off and go home and take care of the baby, but it means a lot. And when guys tell me, hey, I got this going on this weekend, I can't, I totally get it. where we had the potential 30 people that were going to show up on that Friday was it was probably a long shot, and it was just maybe somebody at some point didn't think the return on investment was a big enough impact, because I don't think they understood what we were actually doing. But we do have the one educator from Game and Fish, Clint. He's just an amazing guy. He's not on our board, but Clint he's all about getting
antelope educator.
He's just an educator with Game and Fish. Like, he teaches fly fishing, archery, does the gun safety thing, hunter education. He does all of that. And we talk about this all the time of, we're like, how much do we really teach in hunter education across the United States about conservation?
Very little. Very little.
So there's one point where we could make a difference. And all that is somebody building a couple of strategic PowerPoint slides.
Showing up at the hunter safety meeting.
Yep. So look at how simple that is.
Look
at how simple.
That is low hanging. That's such a good point.
And it's so why aren't we? Well, I don't know.
That's
because someone's.
Now you got me wondering why everybody isn't.
Well, and that's we sit here and we talk about R3. I will say, like, late onset hunters are pretty awesome. Like, you can tell them a rational reason behind something and they'll totally understand it, because they're still pure. They haven't been made impure by a bunch of other things. Yeah. They'll definitely show up. But that's like with, R3, like, we're trying so hard to get people into hunting. Why isn't nationally I don't even pay attention to it anymore, but whoever's still ramrodding that whole thing, just that concert, like, they should be the ones creating the conservation deck to be sending out to every game fish and parks or state organization across our entire country. Like, that should just be their primary focus of, if you want to make hunting better and you want to make wildlife better and you want us to stop being the kicking child for anti-hunters, then go ahead and do something like that.
Yeah.
I have the people on our board. We definitely have the people that could. There's 2 people right now that if I said, hey, we need to dive into this for like 6 months, we need to build a slide deck, we need to do this, and we're going to present it to Game and Fish, and we're going to ask them if they will please present it as part of their hunter safety program. Then what you run into is,
I don't think it would take. Did you have experience with PowerPoint?
I do, yeah.
Okay, it shouldn't take you that long.
Well, I mean, so I'm not specifically saying this about our state in any aspect, but sometimes states are very leery. They're like,
oh yeah, there are things that you think that you're going to run into no barriers with the powers that be, and then you're just smacked by all the barriers they put up.
And sometimes it's like, because we've lived in Colorado and Kansas, so I'm not saying this specifically about South Dakota, but it can kind of turn into like, well, this wasn't our idea, so no. And then like a year later, like, hey, we've got this really great idea. We're going to do this conservation piece at our hunter education class. This would be like this. Somebody from some other state watched this and are like, oh shit, let's get ahead of this before someone who doesn't work for the organization comes and promotes this, and we're going to look bad. I hope that happens.
Oh yeah, because then you get all the
benefits. This was the birth of conservation in the classroom for hunter education. What's happened here right now?
That is such a good idea. There's a Hunt Quietly contributor, Adam Miller, that's a hunter safety instructor in North Dakota. I'm definitely going to bring this up to him.
Yeah. You said it, man. It's low hanging fruit.
A good friend of mine used to do hunter safety, and he would have me come in and do part of it, just to give himself a break. And it was real relaxed. Like, didn't seem like there was less stipulations. You just had to be going through the material. So I don't know. It might be that at least here, it might be that you'd be able to slip in a half hour or something, no problem. you know?
So maybe what we could do is it could be a video that's like 30 minutes long, and then your brother can narrate it.
You'd have to, yeah, he probably would. I bet he would. You'd have to be the one to reach out to him. I don't have ties with him anymore, but
No, but I mean, seriously, like you get the right mindset of people around the table, and I just straight up, man, like anything is possible. Like people just put their mind together and kind of let the guard down a little bit here and a little bit there, and just look at the different opportunities we have to make a difference. It's totally out there. You know, I came home, Julie couldn't make it to the project. We just opened a new coffee shop like 2.5 months ago. So we're super crazy
oh,
busy.
is that the hat you're wearing?
Yeah, look at promotion.
Speed Goat Express, folks, in what town in South Dakota?
Rapid City, South Dakota. She couldn't show up, but when I came home, like Julie just kind of looked at me and she's just like, it was a lot of work today, wasn't it? And I'm like, yeah. And it means a lot. My kids know how much work goes into it. I don't neglect time with my kids because I do this, because last year our son Andrew was out there helping. I try to get the whole family involved. We have a son-in-law that lives really close to us. I'd love to get him out on some of these projects and get him involved more, because it does. If you do it enough, it goes past like feeling good. It kind of gives you a little bit of a power
These
complex.
kids like to hunt?
Mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, they all hunt.
Oh, how old are they?
I have two 28-year-olds, a boy and a girl. And actually, my 20-year-old daughter, she doesn't hunt, but she's always went with me. And then our youngest son is 23, and our youngest, she is 17. So,
okay.
Yeah, the whole
I was going
family.
to be like, if they were little, you could be like, well, if you want to go hunting with me, you can't drive. You got to go fencing with me.
Our son Andrew, was pretty easy for him. He's been a wildland firefighter for the last 3 years. He's not doing it this year, but Andrew knows what a crappy day of work looks like. So
your kids are prime fencing age.
yeah, they are prime. But see, I also grew up in farmland, so I knew what it was like to be on a farm when I was younger, and helping out with walking bean fields, pulling weeds, throwing hay all summer, and doing all that crap. So
you look like a pretty fit dude.
I wouldn't say that. I like too many. We also own a cookie shop.
You could have a big old gut on you, because I can only see from your shoulders.
But I just suck it in. It's all good. Yeah, it kind of comes and goes with the stresses of owning two businesses. You're like,
what's the other one?
It's called the Cookie Shop. We've had a cookie shop since 2018 here in Rapids. So,
are they close together?
Yeah, they're touching. They're pretty close. Okay. So, one's just on a different side of the block, but Rapid City is an amazing community. We're kind of turning a little bit into, we got that Bozeman syndrome going on a little bit, where everybody's moving here and the price of housing is stupid, and who knows what that's how that's gonna turn into it. And, that's the funny thing too, is the amount of people that come into our coffee shop and they're like, so what's up with this speed goat thing? And I'll explain to them what a speed goat or the terminology comes from. And then they get really interested in it, and I will never sit there and go, well, you should get into hunting. I don't do that. I'm like, gonna keep more, more access and more for myself, being selfish. But the amount of people that have told me to my face that are loyal coffee customers now that come in all the time, they're like, hey, when you have a fencing project coming up in the future, because they saw this last one was featured on one of our local news stations, and people had saw it and they were like, oh, we didn't really know you were serious. So that's the kind of stuff you did. And Julie and I were like, yeah, we do that. Well, now they want to get involved.
Oh, fantastic.
They don't have to be hunters. They just, like, people don't, maybe when all these people from other Western states moved to Bozeman, maybe they didn't care. But I feel like a lot of people that are moving here, they want to embrace our culture. We have a different culture here, most vehicles have guns in them, and a lot of people, like country music or whatever. And we're just ranch country and timber country, and we do all that stuff. And I think they literally come here because they want to be a part of our community, and what we're promoting here with the conservation thing is part of our culture.
Yeah. So, we're doing the podcast. This is by way of wrapping up, unless there's anything else you want to cover.
No, I think I've talked enough.
Okay, and if you send me some pictures of work projects, I would love to draw a little attention to what you do.
No, wait, absolutely.
And if there's anything else I can do, aside from coming over there and helping you, because I got my own shit going on. We got 4 work projects coming up. But if there's anything I can do to draw attention to the fantastic work you guys are doing, I am at your disposal. So please.
No, I'll be honest with you, Matt. Like, I told a naysayer that I was gonna be on here with you, and they're like, "Why are you doing that?" And I'm like, I go, "You have to understand." Sometimes I think people just would think maybe this is just a hater platform, like just hating on influencers, and I'm like, no, this is a platform. This is my opinion of your platform. Is like, you want hunting to be something that people can enjoy, people can have access to, and we don't keep going backwards. We don't keep default like snowballing into this big, they just call it a shit show, and I think we can have these conversations and literally people, I would hope like our conversation inspires other people to be having that conversation. I cannot think of one thing you and I have said or talked about tonight where someone would come back and be like, because I read the comments and sometimes when you post something and I'm just like,
oh yeah, and that's so don't send me pictures if you think it's just gonna draw hate.
oh no. Here's my thing is, this goes back to you if I send you pictures, people would have to be anti-hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if someone's going to be like, hey, what are these dummies out doing? Like, this is stupid. It's not going to make a difference. Well, I don't know, man. Go back to spending 18 hours a day on the internet looking up the best boots for doing this or doing that. Like, what's the most expensive boots I can get a hold of? What this and or whatever that. Like, just stay off these platforms if you don't like hearing it.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get people to want to, like, I don't know how long we've been on here, Matt, but it's hard to get people to want to sit here and listen to this. People who want to get educated and people who want to take it to the next level will listen to this. People who just want to keep on doing the same old, they won't. And this is not me saying I know jack squat about conservation, period. All I'm just trying to say is I feel like I have this vision of what we could be doing and how we could be doing it. And we're never going to make it sexy, but we could sure make it into a hell of a flex.
Yeah.
I think that's, or people always say something about this or that. Well, this is the real flex. This is a real flex. This is right up there, man, with shooting a 180-inch mule deer. You go out and pull out 2.5 miles of fence. That's something to hang your hat on. And people go, I bet that was boring. Like, why would you go out and do that? You don't get it. You literally don't get it. We cannot sit at the same table and have a conversation. We can't. Because I'm going to be the same guy that literally, if I see an 80-inch antelope, am I going to hunt it? Absolutely. But it's not going to be for me to, I don't want to boast about it. I don't want to do any of that stuff. I literally view it as like, it's an amazing creature. It's out there. But if there was one tag that they totally took away from all of us going forward and it was pronghorn, I'd be like, okay, And if there's only one critter I could hunt the rest of my life, it would be pronghorn, as long as there's a healthy herd. So I don't know. We're all different. We don't want to ever be cookie cuttered by the powers that be. We want to all have our own mindset. And I think that just like those landowners that don't want to be known for the ones who wiped out all the wildlife, I think when it's almost impossible for any of us to ever be actually deemed a conservationist. There's a lot of, you got to dedicate your whole life to something to truly be 100% a conservationist. but I don't want to go to my grave knowing that I helped make the problem worse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's admirable.
You know,
All right. Nice chatting with you. Let's keep in touch.
absolutely, man. I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll get you some stuff sent, and maybe need some caffeine or whatever. One of these days, you'll jump the border, and we'll get together.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go. Okay. That's a long way from Lake Sakakawea, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is. Okay. Yeah. I'm going there.
we're about 50 miles from the Wyoming border.
Okay.
Nah, we're more than that.
My South Dakota geography is terrible.
Yeah, we're all the way out here in the western half. We're not too far from the Wyoming border. We're not too far from Montana. So from here, it's like, I want to say Sheridan, Wyoming's like 3.5 hours, maybe 5 hours to Billings.
Okay. Oh, that's not bad.
No, I think
Well,
Bozeman's.
hopefully we'll meet in person someday. And no, I'm here to help any way I can. So please keep it in mind.
All right, man. I appreciate it, and I'll get you some pictures sent.
All right. Sweet. Thanks.
You bet.
Good night.